right, folks, now that we have 4 people, which is our quorum, we'll go ahead and get started. It is 6:04 p.m. on Monday, June 15th, 2020. This is a Town of Halifax Finance Committee meeting. We're being recorded by Zoom, through which we're also holding our meetings. On tonight's agenda, budgets, wage and personnel recommendations, reserve fund transfers and line item transfers, acceptance of minutes, correspondence, public participation, calendar, and as may arise. If we could just move a little bit out of order and get some of the housekeeping done quickly first. I know we have several transfer requests that are in our emails. Linda, thank you for putting them all into that one email. That was the timestamp on that's just from like an hour or so ago. So we can take them in order. So the first one I'm looking at is the one in the amount of $578.77. So I'll let everyone go ahead and open up that one. Okay. So again, this is please transfer the amount of $578.77 from account name Board of Health expense. The budget amount for this fiscal year was $7,873. The current balancing account is $4,175.26. The reason for the excess account is less expenses than were expected. Transfer to account name Health Inspector. The budget amount for this fiscal year was $73,715. The current balance in this account was $20,640.55. And the reason for the shortfall in the account is the health agent is retiring and this amount is needed to pay out earned vacation time. So I would entertain a motion to approve the line item transfer for $570.77 from Board of Health expense to Health Inspector.
Moved. Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you, folks. All right, the next one is a line item transfer. It's the second file in the amount of $21,000. This one's dated 6/12/20. Please transfer the amount of $21,000 from account snow and ice. The budget amounts for this fiscal year is The budget amount for this fiscal year was $177,509. The current balance is $1,483. The reason for this is fewer storm-related events. Transfer to account stormwater. The budget amount for this fiscal year was $114,300. The current balance in this account is $125.09. And the reason for the projected deficit in this account was unforeseen additional expenses. So that we can get have a conversation about this, I would entertain a motion to approve the line item transfer the amount of $21,000.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Charlie, or I don't think Sandy's on here. Do we know the story behind this? Is this because of the catch basins?
Which one are we talking?
The 21,000 from snow and ice to stormwater.
What happened was that the street sweeping came in much higher than expected. So
Okay.
we need to move money over to cover that.
Okay. I know last year at annual, we had asked Steve to keep a record of the street sweeping expenses because I know he put in for the street sweeper last year. We couldn't really justify the expense. So if the next time you talk to him, or whoever his liaison is, just sort of remind him to keep note of how much this costs, because if at a point it becomes more economical to buy the street sweeper for ourselves than to contract it out, that was sort of the bright line we had established last year. Okay. Any other questions or discussion on this line item transfer? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And the last one, it's the third file on here, and this is a reserve fund transfer. Okay. So a reserve fund transfer dated June 9th, 2020, amount requested $7,542.10 to be transferred to law account 01151. Present balance and appropriation is $0. The amount requested will be used for continued legal bills. And this expenditure is extraordinary and or unforeseen for the following reasons: extraordinary cost due to continuing court cases. So again, the amount is $7,542.10. And Linda, do we have our current balance in the reserve fund?
I can get it for you.
Thank you.
Let me get it for you after the two that, oh no, actually those were line item. Yep, we have 36,871.23
Okay, thank you so much.
prior to this.
Okay, Okay, so I would entertain a motion to approve the reserve fund transfer request for $7,542.10.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Charlie, just to remind us, which month's bills are these for the law bills?
That brings us, so it should bring us up to the end of May at this point.
Okay.
So we've got one more month to go.
Okay. Any further questions or discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you, folks. I already printed these out, so I'll go ahead and fill them out and sign them, and then send them off to the group, and then we can just collect all the signatures on it. And I'll put a note in it that only the folks who took the votes on them should sign off. So it'll just be me, Cheryl, Bill, and Fred. Awesome. All right. Thank you very much, Linda.
Thank you.
Okay. Acceptance of minutes. The email date is, I believe, June 11th. And then Linda sent updated meeting minutes this afternoon as well, just to make a correction. So we can vote on the minutes as amended by Linda's correction. Let me just open this. Okay, these are the meeting minutes from Monday, June 8th, 2020. The members present were Melinda Tarsi, Cheryl Zarella Burke, Fred McGovern, Drew McClincy, and Bill McAvoy. I would entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes from Monday, June 8th, 2020 as amended in the most recent version.
Make a motion to recommend. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. Thank you, everybody. And thank you again, Linda, for doing those.
Sure.
Okay. Just a note, wage and personnel recommendations. Wage and personnel did not meet last week, so we do not have any updated recommendations from wage and personnel. As soon as we have any, I'll report them out to you, but we'll leave that item on the agenda. So next we can talk about budgets. All right, we had correspondence. We have, and this will kind of fold into the correspondence on our agenda as well. Charlie has some updated information from the state concerning the timing of state info they circulated to us via email. But Charlie and or Sandy, I don't know if you want to just sort of summarize it for everyone who's in attendance this evening as to what that means for our timing and our decision making.
Basically, what I got from that was we're not going to see a state budget until the end of July. They're going to do their 1/12 budget in essence. They'll have to actually pass something at the state legislature. But that's how I read the information I got, that if we're lucky, we'll see something by the end of July. Mm-hmm. That means that unless the state of emergency ends before July 11th, it's extremely likely and therefore also reasonable not to hold the town meeting on July 11th. We'll still be in the state of emergency. We still will have all the same logistical hurdles, though I need to really follow what other communities are doing. Hull, for instance, did it outside on a football field. I saw a photograph of another South Shore community having it inside their gymnasium. You know, so we need to look at the possibilities and basically plan ahead. Talk to the chiefs, talk to Kathy Drynan and her successor, and work out the logistics, and at some point talk to the moderator and the board of selectmen along with you all about when we are going to have a town meeting, where do we want it? Because the possibilities would be, I don't think we can use the Kingston football field because the fire chief put a kibosh on that for Kingston. So we're left with one of the auditoriums at Silver Lake, the gym here, or baseball, soccer fields out in back of the school, all of which have advantages and disadvantages. Dennis, or Carmen, our moderator, has some challenges in terms of literally reading a room, so to speak. And there are ways of dealing with that, but the bigger the room is, so to speak, the more difficult the challenges are. So we have to take that into account.
Mm-hmm.
But back on the finances, that, we won't get a state aid number until, let us say, the end of July. I mean, there's conceivably, when they're talking about there won't be a budget, I'm hoping that means that there won't be a budget until the end of July, but on July 31st, there'll be one that's signed, in the sense of the House has passed something, the Senate has passed something, the governor signed it, and we've got a number, as opposed to by July 31st, somebody will have something presented, but we won't know for certain what the numbers are. We'll see on that. As far as dates are concerned, if we weren't going to do July 11th, I'd move it to August 8th. That's another Saturday. Again, I would be recommending to the moderator, we start at 9 o'clock, no matter where we are, whether it's over at Silver Lake, whether it's our gym, whether it's the baseball fields. We just don't know yet, but that's it. That's what I've got at this point. I don't know if Sandy's seen anything else beyond all that.
So in terms of process, I guess, should we have at some point, like, assuming we don't have the July 11th meeting, at some point this month, should we have a joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen to make any recommendations, since they're going to be the ones that vote the 112 budget? Should we have?
The board took your recommendations already.
Okay. I thought as much, but I didn't know if we had to have like another formal meeting to do that.
What I had recommended to the board was that they use your recommendations as the basis of the 112 budget. Sandy worked with the departments in getting the information, showing them how to do a 112 budget.
Mm-hmm.
We did it for 12 months. The state technically only needs July, but we're already in essence ready to, for instance, do the August budget. Because the way they're doing this is, I guess, 1 month at a time, and then at some point in July, we can submit the August numbers to them. I appreciate all the work the departments did. It was a little weird for them. Obviously, they're not used to thinking in those terms.
Yeah.
But, and when, we sent it out to everybody, we had a couple of later changes to it. We incorporated those because in the end, the bottom line is the bottom line. In the sense of if you think you're going to spend a lot of money in July, you won't be spending money in June.
Mm-hmm.
And if, people have to understand that we may have changes in the budget in the sense of if, depending on how everything happens, if our revenues do crater because we don't get the state aid we're hoping for, and we don't use other sources of funding to cover that deficit, we're going back to all the departments saying, well, yes, you spent all this money in July, but now we're cutting your budget and it's coming up at the other end. So let's work on that and figure out how you're going to get through the last 11 months or 10 months. For the most part, the folks who needed money in July, a big number, it's the normal thing in the sense of a lot of things are due. Silver Lake is due, the retirement is due, various licenses and permits are due, insurance is due, all those things. So, for the most part, I would say most departments, especially on the salary accounts, it's pretty regular. We may have given them a little bit of more money in July just to start off with so that they had a cushion, but it's not something that, only 2% of the money is left in June, for instance, or something like that.
Okay. Great, thank you. Under public participation, I wanted to set aside a little bit of time for folks who may have not been able to join in our budget discussion earlier to pose any questions. Right now, as Charlie just mentioned, the Board of Selectmen is the one who controls the 112 budget. So the Finance Committee presented our recommendations, which would have been for the full upcoming fiscal year to them. And now from here on out, they're going to be the ones that actually make that decision. But we're obviously here as a resource for them. And we're happy to have those conversations as well. given that we still don't have some information from the state, we're in a bit of a holding pattern, but if anyone did want to ask any questions or raise any issues with the committee, I know we've got a few folks in attendance tonight from the public. I wanted to make sure that you had plenty of time to do that. So if there's anyone, right now your mics are muted. If you want to speak, you can unmute yourselves. And just, if you wouldn't mind identifying for those people who are listening on the phone, so that if they can't see your name, those of us who are on Zoom on the computers, we can actually see names. But please do feel free to ask any questions of the committee or raise any issues to the committee that you have.
If I may, Madam Chair, this is Jon Lay, the president of the Silver Lake Education Association.
Hi, Mr. Lay. Thanks for joining us tonight.
So, I appreciate the invitation. It's always very insightful to hear, everything that the towns are talking about. If I could just put in for my part, I mean, we agree completely that we're in a holding pattern until we know what the state numbers are. But what as I'm sure you're aware, the superintendent of Silver Lake presented affected almost 14.4 teachers that would be affected. And also, as I'm sure the community is aware at this point, we have been asked to accept a total freeze to steps and lanes and a 0% cost of living for next year. At the same time, we understand that the town can't just produce all this extra money. So we really have these three different factors that have to be balanced. The Silver Lake Education Association is open to making salary concessions. We don't think it's reasonable to expect us to take a complete freeze on everything. Similarly, we understand that some cuts may be inevitable, but certainly I think the level of cuts that were proposed would be devastating to our students. So what I really see that the best solution that would have the least negative impact on the community and our students would be a sharing of the kind of cost of this, with the teachers union accepting some concessions, the school committee moderating their cuts, and having the towns try to step up to provide for the schools. I know there's a lot of different things that the towns do have to pay for, and obviously we understand that, you can't just cut every expense to every other department and give the money to us, but it's our position that we really do need to balance those three things. So I would ask the Finance Committee of Halifax to try to do their part to see if there's some way that we can increase the funding to Silver Lake, just to try to make sure that we're all kind of doing our part to make sure that there's the least possible impact to our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lay, and thanks again for joining us tonight. Just as a little bit of, backstory, or to explain the process that we've undertaken up to this point. Obviously, we followed the same steps that other finance committees have in terms of, basic timing and things like that. But the proposed limit that we set on all departments for the upcoming fiscal year was to set everyone back to their FY20 spending levels. So we essentially started with an estimated 8% reduction in state aid, and then worked from there to try to fit the FY20 budget within that revenue projection. Now, other towns are using more severe. So like Kingston, for example, I believe is working off a 15% estimated drop in revenues. Until we get firm numbers from the state, we have a really reasonable estimate of an 8% reduction, but it could very well be worse than that. It could be better than that. That's why I mentioned that holding pattern, which is difficult. But in reaching out to each of the department heads, including both the elementary school and Silver Lake, we explained that one of the things that was really important to us as a finance committee, we talked about philosophically earlier on, was trying to ensure that we'd be able to maintain personnel, which right now the Wage and Personnel Committee has not yet taken a vote on recommending a potential freeze of a wage freeze and or a step freeze. But that's still something that's appearing in our warrant that might be on the table. So you know, a lot of the meetings that we've been having in the past several weeks have sort of felt very Groundhog Day, in that we keep saying like, well, we don't have any updated numbers from the state. So right now we've balanced the budget to the extent that we can. But I know that everyone across the table is deeply committed to ensuring that residents of our town, including and especially students, have access to all the governmental services that we want to be able to provide. So we definitely take your comments to heart and your feedback to heart. And I know we had just had this very difficult conversation last week with the elementary school committee that it might be even worse than we had originally projected. And if that is the case, and we'll keep those open lines of communication with the Silver Lake Regional School Committee, the elementary school committee, and all of our department heads and work with them as much as we can. I've never faced anything like this before, being on the finance committee. I know a lot of folks haven't, and a lot of folks have seen things like this before, like in 2008. So I know a lot of us are really relying on those folks who went through that similar economic recession to help guide us as to what we can expect right now. But I do want to keep encouraging people to come to these meetings on Monday evenings at 6 p.m. Hopefully it's easier now that we're meeting remotely and you can log in, you can, put yourself on mute, eat your dinner, do whatever you need to do, but just listen and be part of this conversation, because we really do want, need, and value everyone's feedback on this. Do we have anyone else under public participation that we can acknowledge? If you do, you can unmute yourself, identify yourself. And like we mentioned, do feel free to keep attending these meetings virtually and staying in communication with us. Under calendar, we've posted for every Monday night through June. It might be safe to just add in at this point. Hold on, I'm trying to pull up my calendar here. So right now we've got, obviously this evening, the 22nd, 29th. Do we want to try to hold Monday, July 6th, just in case we do end up having a July 11th meeting, or will not enough folks be here? I know I probably will be here, but I know some folks may have vacation time and whatnot.
You will need to have July 13th at the very least, because that'll be the last finance committee meeting that you can do reserve fund transfers for fiscal 20 and any line item transfers for fiscal 20.
Okay.
So you may, so definitely do the 13th, please.
Yeah. All right. So we'll save Monday, July 13th. Let's also just, if it's okay with you, Linda, just post for Monday, July 6th, and then we'll do a quorum check before that and see if we'll have enough folks. And if not, then we'll just definitely hold that 13th to get all that paperwork done. Okay. Thank you. Anything else under as may arise for this evening?
Other than I had asked the finance committee to have an executive session immediately after. Yeah. I've emailed you all the Zoom information for that. It's not, so if before you actually adjourn, you'll need a roll call vote to go into executive session to discuss a real estate property transaction, in that the town's negotiating position would be hurt by discussing it in public session. What will happen is also Jason will be in to talk with you all about it. He has the most information. If the police chief wants to come in also, because obviously he's been working on this project too, he can give me a call or email me something and I'll forward him the Zoom information. I don't know if he's interested in attending. Sandy, the same, I believe, has the information, so.
Okay. Okay, awesome. So I'm going to take a roll call vote. So I'm going to call on each finance committee member as to whether or not they vote to move into executive session. As Charlie mentioned, we're convening an executive session because we're going to discuss a real estate issue in which it's better for us to not speak in public forum given the town's potential negotiating position. So that being said, if you vote in favor of roll call, please say aye when I call your name, or you can indicate in the chat if you have to, if your audio is down. So Bill McAvoy.
Aye.
Cheryl Zarella Burke. Indicates aye with her hand. Drew McClincy.
Aye.
All right, Fred McGovern.
Aye.
All right, and I, Melinda Tarsi, vote aye as well. We're going to adjourn into executive session. This is going to conclude the public meeting portion of our meeting. Thank you, everyone. Be safe. Those of you who are going to be in the executive meeting, please use the updated Zoom link that Charlie has emailed to you, and we'll see you over there in a couple minutes, okay?